It's none other than Karan Dagar, and I am going to talk to you and share with you my experience of whether you should pursue an MS or an MBA in 2023. So, first of all, like this video is for those people who are actually pursuing a tech career, because I am from tech and I actually am going to share my journey. So, I actually did, came to the US close to like 8 years ago. And a lot has changed today with the work from home. People primarily are working from home and they're kind of like worried as to how things will shape up in the future. So let me tell you first, should you come to the US? Yes or no? It depends. If you're going to pursue MS, then you should. If you're going to do an MBA, then you shouldn't. A couple of reasons. Okay, so first of all, MS kind of like goes into the technical skills. You'll be learning more about the technology, getting a little bit more specialized. And it doesn't mean that you just have to stick yourself for a career in software engineering. Just pursuing MS does not mean that. Speak from experience. When I started, I did my MS in computer science, and I am not working as a software engineer. I'm working in technical product marketing. So you can, over the course of your career journey in the United States, you can change and pivot. Maybe you can go into product management, you can go into technical product marketing, technical marketing engineering. There are quite a bit of options. You don't have to necessarily stick to software engineering, but doing an MS kind of forces you to specialize in a particular field for which there will be demand. Second, um, you know, MBA is like more generic. Okay, so you don't really learn anything new. It's just kind of like networking and you trying to get used to the business know-how of the world. And in US, you'll be stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? Maybe you're coming from India. So it's very hard for you to compete with a US citizen who has done an MBA from a really good school. Like you can, I'm not saying you can't match it up. Of course, there have been cases where people have outdone them, but in majority of cases, you will only be struggling to get to their level. Okay, so it's important that you specialize in something and then you continue to build on that career. Like if you take the career of Sundar Pichai, if you take the career of Satya Nadella, all these big guys that everybody talks about, they entered through engineering and then they were really skilled in one particular area and then they learned about the different areas of the business. And you can do that. And second, MBA knowledge is pretty generic. You can just go to YouTube, maybe read a couple of good books like the 10-day MBA or stuff like that, and you can learn a lot about MBA skills. You don't have to pay like $150,000 or $120,000 to get your MBA. MS is actually one third of the price. I think it is close to like $50,000 for 2 years. So when you're doing a MS, take a list of all the options. Try to go for the universities that give you 2-year program. You need that for internship, CPT, and then getting into the work experience stage. Second is MS actually allows you to get into H1B visa. Of course, like I'm sure you must be familiar about it. H1B visa extends your work visa in the US by 6 years. Now, it's a temporary visa, but it doesn't mean that your stay in the US will end in 6 years. When you're working with the company, you will file an employer-based green card. And once you get your employer-based green card, even if it's in the process, you don't have to get it, but once it's been filed, you can stay in the country for as long as you have any job in the US. And each employer that you work for, they'll have to file for it. So of course there will be hassles, but there are a lot of people who are doing it. So don't get discouraged about the visa thing. And just coming to the US, you should not come with the idea of like, okay, I'm just going to stay in the US. No, 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 think about it like an experience. Maybe you come to the US and you may have to go back to India, but the learning, the skill set and the experience that you will have, it will have tremendous impact on you. So my advice is definitely come to the US. Definitely go for the MS. And even if you feel like, no, yeah, I want to be a business analyst, I want to be in product management, I don't see myself as a software engineer, don't negative self-talk. Learn that even after doing your MS, you can get into those kind of careers. MS does not mean software engineering. Of course, software engineers get paid a lot, but you can pivot. Like I'm a living example of that, right? Um, Third would be like, what kind of salaries, would you expect? Like MS earn this much, MBA earns this much. So let me clarify. MS people, and all the people who do their MS, they earn a lot more than MBA folks. So I don't know what salary figures you get, but I'm telling you from experience, there may be one or two odd cases, but that's not the average that you should consider. There are a lot more MS folks out there who earn a lot more, and the average, I think, starting salary is pretty huge. I think an average figure that I would give to you would be $120,000 per annum. That's a good salary. Like, trust me, like, and don't get too fixated about whether you'll make that salary or not. Don't fix on anything that drives you away from your purpose. Your purpose should be coming to the US to get a holistic experience. In India, or in your home country, you're pretty much limited to your experience. But when you come outside of your home country, your experience kind of like really expands, and you start to witness things that you thought you never existed, and you kind of meet with people who are really smart, and that kind of like rubs on to you. So overall, I think it's a good value for money. I know it's going to cost a lot of money, especially when you convert INR to USD, but it's worth it. And I know you probably might be taking some loan from your parents, like, hey dad, can you sponsor it? I get it, I did that too. So my thing would be like, you can always give that money back, or maybe 50% of that money back, and you can do that easily in 1 or 2 years once you graduate. So it's a worthwhile investment. Third is like, is like remote work gonna impact it in any way? My answer to that is no. Remote work and working from home is kind of like the norm. So when you are in the college, you might have to do a lot from your home, or maybe from the libraries. And even when you start working, you might have to work remotely. It's okay, it doesn't take away from your experience. It just means that the world we live in has changed. The dynamics of the world has changed, and remote work is here to stay. So I know, like, 10 years ago things were different, but yes, remote work is here to stay. Now, the $1 million question: is India better than coming to the US? I can't answer that for you. If I'm being honest, opportunities are pretty much the same, you know. But if you're watching this video, and if you're actually kind of thinking like whether you should go to the US, I'm telling you, like, overall, an experience point of view, like the kind of experience you'll have, the kind of problems you will be solving, and the kind of the person you'll become at the end of everything, like in a 10 years time when you'll stay in the US, the kind of, you'll be able to handle a lot more pressure, and that will make you stronger. So overall, like, from my experience, no matter what I'm not saying anything against India. I think, like, even staying in India, it's a good decision for majority of folks. But there is still a good chunk of folks for which, like, stepping out of their comfort zone, getting out of their home country, maybe coming to the US, pursuing MS, and struggling will be worthwhile. I can speak from experience, and I think it's going to be a pretty worthwhile decision. Everything will work out. Okay, visa, from visa perspective, you get F first, you come on F1, and then STEM OPT actually extends up to 3 years. You can file for H1B lottery system. There's a good probability, like a 90% chance, that you'll get your H1B in the first, second, or 3 years. So overall, if you look at the amount of the time that you'll get to work in the US is 9 years. In 9 years, you can get your employer-based green card application filed, and once you do that, you can stay in the US indefinitely, pretty much. Okay, so and earn a lot of money, maybe recoup all the costs that you put in towards your education, and maybe 10 years down the line you're like, hell, I'm done with the US and I want to go back to India. But you can go back to India. Of course, it's your home country, right? And you'll take with you a lot more experience, and you can apply that in the professional world in India. And yeah, I mean, that's all I'm gonna say. I think it's a worthwhile decision to pursue MS, especially in 2023. See, I know a recession is coming in. I know remote hybrid work is there. Problems will always be there. Don't let these problems or these issues kind of like uh, negative self-talk you into getting out of this problem. These things have always been there. Okay, don't. There was a recession earlier on. Major tragic incidences have happened in the past. But if you really want to do this, go for it. Do it. It'll be worthwhile, and I think you'll do pretty good. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this video. For more videos, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll get back to you. I promise.